The SEC has been producing top-level QBs for a while now, but where does Jackson Arnold rank this year? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the World. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making us one of your sports listens of the day. Joining me, as he always does, is purveyor of all things Auburn insider Kyle Rush. Today, we're talking QB and QB rankings. So we'll talk about where Jackson Arnold ranks amongst SEC QBs and what that means for Auburn this season. Kyle, let's start with the rankings. Athlon released preseason rankings, ranking our guy Jackson Arnold 11th in the SEC, the 11th best QB in the SEC. I think he's going to have to finish higher than that for Auburn to get it done. As a matter of fact, I think in terms of overall statistics, he's going to have to be probably top 4 or 5 in the conference if Auburn wants to have the type of season that Hugh Freeze is going to need. Before we get into the specifics, your thoughts on the state of SEC quarterbacking right now? Nico is no longer in the conference. Who's even the best?
Yeah, I wouldn't have even had Nico super highly rated on this list should he had been still in the conference. Man, you got to think about it, man. You got Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier may be the best pro prospect in the SEC as far as just pure arm talent and NFL arm talent. Lenore Sellers, who's a freaking beast. He just seemed like he would will that team to victory when he was healthy. DJ Lagway, oh golly, we saw flashes from him last year, all the things that he can do and how talented that kid is. And then you got obviously Diego Pavia, who I don't know what defines what a great quarterback is, but winning games you probably shouldn't win or willing your team to victory has to be. I don't know if that's a stat that you can record, but it's a stat that he definitely has. And so him being on the list. John Mateer, new quarterback at Oklahoma. He's electric, but does his game translate? Oklahoma lost a ton in the portal, so can they surround enough talent around him? Taylor Green, I don't really know how I feel about him being number 7. He's really good runner, not a very talented thrower. Marcel Reed, obviously, we saw he looked great at times, and then he looked like a freshman at times. Austin Simmons, I have no idea. I honestly don't even really know who Austin Simmons is. I think he's the left-handed kid that came in a couple of times when Dart got hurt. Is that right? I don't know much about Austin Simmons. And then Gunnar Stockton, saw a half, of him looking pretty good. Then obviously you got Jackson, Ty Simpson, who'll be his first go at Alabama, Blake Shapen. Mississippi State's just a mess. And then I can't even pronounce Missouri's quarterback's name. Bo. We're just going to go with Bo. So there's some really good. It seems like there's some really good. It's top heavy. Some really good quarterbacks. And then you got some, it's a crapshoot. We'll have to see how it plays out.
It's interesting. I want to note that Alabama's starting quarterback is ranked behind brand new quarterback Jackson Arnold. I never thought I'd see the day when that would happen, but certainly changing of the tide going on in Tuscaloosa there with their quarterback ranked so low on this list. Look, John Mateer joining the conference. He was the number 1 player in the portal. I mentioned big boost for Oklahoma, certainly. You said something before we started recording, and that a lot of this will depend on how well these QBs fit with their program. How would you rate the fit of Jackson Arnold with Hugh Freeze versus some of the other quarterbacks and their fit, at their teams?
So I don't know that if you gave Hugh Freeze a ball of clay and asked him to create his perfect quarterback, I don't know that it would look a ton different than Jackson. I mean, I think when you talk about he committed to and signed with Oklahoma to play in Jeff Lebby's system, who Jeff Lebby's offensive system looks a lot like Hugh Freeze. You got the RPO, you throw the ball vertically. You got the aspect of having the running quarterback too, as well as part of the arsenal. So that went away after his freshman year. So now he's kind of getting back with a more a system that fits his skill set a lot better. I just don't know that there is a better fit. I mean, I don't know that there's a better fit for Hugh Freeze. Maybe even off this list. Maybe throw in Lenore Sellers, but there's just, I think he's Hugh's perfect quarterback. Arch Manning obviously is a great fit. I don't really see a ton of bad fits. They all seem to kind of do their thing in their offense there. I'm curious to see how John Mateer, but they brought John Mateer's offensive coordinator. So
Yeah.
Oklahoma hired, is it Arbuckle? That was his last name, I believe. They hired Washington State's offensive coordinator. So there's a bunch of good fits. I just don't think I could take any quarterback off this list and be a much better fit for what Hugh wants to do than Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, let's talk about that fit for a second. Now Jackson Arnold obviously is not an unathletic guy, right? Like, I mean, he can move with his legs when he needs to. But certainly, I think they think he can make every throw that he's going to need to make in this system. What do you see the balance like? Over the last couple of years, the Auburn quarterbacks have run quite a bit under Hugh Freeze. Do you see Jackson Arnold using his legs to the extent that Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford and some of these other guys had to use their legs in this system the last couple of years?
Well, see, it was like 2 different years for Peyton. The first season he was asked to run, like he was required. It almost was a requirement for him to run. Like that was the only way that they could make that offense work. The Philip Montgomery experiment, the Hugh Freeze, was he helping call plays? Was he not? Was he influencing the offense or not? Like Peyton was required to run. Last year, he wasn't necessarily required to run, but he was able to use his legs to extend plays, which, in my opinion, was a lot more impressive than you would probably expect from a guy like that. So I would expect a little bit similar to that as far as similar to Peyton's second year. I think that's because to me, it was less about design runs and more about extending plays. And I think that's going to be, you may have a little bit more athletic ability from Jackson and a little bit more willing runner. So maybe you could design some more quarterback design run type stuff. But I think it's probably going to be a similar look to what Peyton had last year, where it's, we want you to get the ball out quick, make the right decisions, and then if you can extend the play and run, pick up a big third down by running and moving the chains, I would see it being more along those lines. So maybe, that 400 or 500 yard mark.
Yeah, I think that the unscheduled runs are what I'm going to be looking for from Jackson Arnold, right? Like, and looking at how he functions in this offense, it's going to be fun to see him do dynamic things with these wide receivers, use his legs when he needs to get out of trouble and get out of broken plays, but not depend on that. In the past, Hugh Freeze offenses have worked the best when the run-pass ratio is about 55-45 in favor of the run. But they want to run more plays than Auburn has been running the last couple of years. I think that's the key, right? Now, getting behind the chains has limited the offense some because they haven't been able to run as many plays as they'd like to run in the game. Speaking of fit, like, if he fits well, where do you see that play mark, right? In my mind, I think it has to be north of 70 plays a game if you're Auburn and you're having success offensively. But I can't see an offense in the 60 play range benefiting the Tigers much or Jackson Arnold much.
No, and I don't know how to really put a number on it because I know the length of the games shortened a little bit last year with some of the clock rules. So I don't know how necessarily that affects possessions and plays to be run. But I mean, you got to be able to extend more drives than were extended last year, which will yield more plays. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to run more plays. That gets you more attempts. That probably would have gotten Jarquez more rush attempts if you were able to, be able to keep the chains moving a little bit more, which would have probably made everybody look a little bit better. So I'm with you. You got to run more plays in general. I'm kind of shocked. I'm looking at the rushing stats last year. I would have thought Peyton had more rushing yards than he did. He only had 283 rushing yards.
Yeah. So look at how many rushes he actually had, though.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know how I'm looking at CFB stats. I don't know how they factor in, or if they do factor in sacks necessarily at all in that. But I would hope that Jackson is a little bit north of that. I think if Jackson can be a little bit north of that, I think that means we're probably moving the chains and running more plays, like we're talking about.
Yeah, in college, I believe they count sacks against your rushing total. It's stupid. I've never agreed with that. Like the NFL doesn't do that, but the college does, and so that would hurt his rushing total some. But ultimately, he was north of 100 rush attempts on the season, which is the number I would like to see go down for Jackson Arnold. Right? Like I don't want to see him with 100 rush attempts, Kyle. I want to see him maybe like 50, 60 on the season. Would be great.
Yeah. What would 5 or 6 would be right at 60 attempts, I think, on the season. I think that would be a pretty fair. I would take that all day long.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits because the teams that are more successful in today's SEC are finding that good fit with their quarterback. Florida seems to have found it. I recorded a segment earlier today with my guy SEC Mike. We talked about DJ Lagway at Florida and how he fit. And the question was asked, do you see Deuce Knight stepping in the same kind of way that Lagway stepped in for Mertz at Florida? And I don't see that happening this season unless it's injury. I think that Jackson Arnold is going to play well enough to hold on to the job all year. I think his talent is more than sufficient, and I got more questions about how they'll use him than whether he's capable or not.
That last little piece is to me the key. I question less the tools, and I question more the carpenter or whatever you want to call it, the person that's using the tools and being able to maximize the tools that Jackson has. So I'm with you there. I'm like you. Mertz was sort of injury prone, so he got knocked out for a couple of games. DJ Lagway goes in. I think if that were to happen, he may not be all the way there to where DJ Lagway is, because to me, DJ Lagway, at least from what we've seen, could be a generational talent, and Deuce very well could be as well. But it's hard to expect that he could step in and have that kind of, early success, even though you've heard a lot of great reports. But I think injury is the only way that you get to even see that, to be completely honest. Hopefully, and maybe some blowout games. Let's get some garbage time. I want some daggum garbage time quarterback reps. Let's get some garbage time quarterback reps outside of just handing the ball off.
Yeah. Is this the start of a natural succession at quarterback for Auburn in the SEC? We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're in the Auburn, Opelika area, or if you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking for a great place to get fresh for the weekend, our friends at the Vibe Vault have you covered. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. You can visit them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet I in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across from Chattahoochee Valley Community College and next to the Renfro's and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault helping keep the community fresh. Also, our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. I got Richard taking care of you guys, leaving a nice little note for you in every single order. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. And last but certainly not least, our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR and use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Lifetime products at Golden's Cast Iron. It's the spring. You want to be outside grilling with the family or working out to get in shape. Work out, grill out, chill out with our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Let's jump back in here. Kyle, Auburn has had a quarterback problem for years. I think that when Bo came to Auburn, a lot of people thought it might be the start of something really good at quarterback. Didn't work out for him here. It has not worked out for many quarterbacks that have come through Auburn since Jarrett Stidham. It's time for Hugh Freeze to solve that puzzle for the Tigers. How close do you think he is to solving the conundrum of finding a consistent starting quarterback that can get it done in the top half of the conference here on the Plains?
It better be this year. You know what I mean? Like, it better be this year, or there's going to have to be some tough conversations. I was talking with a friend earlier, and we're talking about not only this year, but we're talking about next year. And like, what happens next year? Like, let's say that there's two ends of the spectrum, two extreme ends of the spectrum, where Jackson has an unbelievable year and goes pro. You're fired up. You just move on to Deuce. Or he has a subpar year. Deuce comes in halfway through and you ride with Deuce the next year. What happens if he just has like a solid year? Like, what happens if he just throws for like 3,000 yards, not necessarily lighting up NFL draft boards, and then you go in the next year and then you have a decision to be made, because would Deuce sit for 2 years to wait on his third year? I don't know that you ever really have a true succession plan anymore. I swear it feels like you're almost season by season. But regardless, if you don't have a good year this year, people are going to start asking, can you develop or can you not evaluate? Like, what's the issue? I think you got to be able to answer a lot of those questions this year and be able to have a solid year and prove, hey, Ole Miss, Liberty, that wasn't just a thing of the past. Like, that translates to Auburn in 2025. And I think you got to answer those questions this season.
I agree with you. I would argue that winning and success solves some of this problem for you. Hear me out. If you want Deuce to wait, it's much easier to convince him to sit and wait his turn if you're winning.
Very true.
I just, and if he knows he's the next guy up in a place where he developed his talent and he knows the system and the receivers, and that coach recruited and believed in him, he'll wait a couple years. Right. I think we see that at Texas with Arch Manning. There was a lot of smoke about whether he would hit the transfer portal or not. He chose to stay put.
Ty Simpson's been here. Ty Simpson's been at Alabama since like 1995. Like, he's been there forever. He's waited patiently.
Yeah, look, he's sat and waited his turn. But it's really not. I don't want to say it's not a hard sell, but it's not as difficult when the guy in front of him is actually performing at a high level and you're winning ball games. You don't mind. You just say, hey, listen, my time's coming. I know it's not because I'm not good enough, but the guy in front of me has got a little bit more experience and he's very talented, and Auburn is winning football games. And he's got to run out of eligibility at some point. And if you're winning, it's more likely that guy is going to go pro and vacate that spot as well, too. That's another product of winning is that guys jump to the draft earlier, and then you can keep cycling that talent through. I tweeted out something that apparently was controversial. I didn't think it was controversial. Apparently, it was controversial, just about why it's important that Auburn returns to winning as soon as possible. And I thought the draft where Jarquez and Keandre got drafted was a sign of, the association with losing and how it kind of hurt those guys a little bit. But when you're losing, you don't have the team success. You're not getting the opportunities. You're not running as many plays. Everything's worse when you're losing, man. Like,
sure,
it is better to be on a winner, right, than it is to be on a loser, period. And I think that, if Auburn can start winning this year, and that means 8 wins. I want to be clear about what that means. That doesn't mean just getting to 500. It doesn't mean making a bowl game. At this point, with the talent and the resources that are available, you got to get to 8 wins. Personally, 7 wins is still kind of a rough season for me with the schedule. Get to 8 wins, and I think you've won enough that you can look to your players and say, guys, it's working. Give us one more year. We're going to get there. We're on our way to something special.
Yeah, and to your point about winning, making it easier for guys who want to hang around. I mean, we just named, you got Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton's another one that's been at Georgia for a while, kind of waiting his turn. Why not Auburn? Why can't Auburn be that, where you get to the point where you're winning 9-10 games a year, and hey, if I can just hang in there, I'm going to get to be the quarterback, and I'm going to have hopefully the same amount of success. So I think it's just we see. I think I'm not jaded. I think I got a little PTSD, worried. I've seen it around where if you don't get in there early, people start putting their names out there. The one good thing is Auburn, I feel like, is very very competitive on the NIL on the NIL aspect of it, and they're really good at contracts and making sure that people are taken care of there. So I think Deuce will be taken care of there. It's just, can he be patient? And then winning definitely helps that. If you have those stats where it's 2,800, 3,000 yards, but you go 7-5, I could see where it's like, man, I better be the guy, or I'm going to go find a winner somewhere. So winning definitely makes it easier all the way around.
Oh, it does. It does. And Auburn fans hope that they can return to that here in 2025. Like I said, the schedule sets up well. Baylor, a couple cupcakes, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia to round out the first half of that schedule. After that, you have a stretch that sees you play Missouri, the likes of Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer. Like the next 5 games are all winnable in my book.
I was looking at the schedule, and I don't think it's even that arguable. You're more talented than 9 out of the 12.
That's a fact.
9 out of the 12 rosters that you're playing. I don't think that's very arguable.
Yeah.
And I think you could argue 10. I think there's a Texas A&M, to me, is a coin flip. I think it's a wash. Maybe you're not as talented as them, but I think there could be an argument there. So you got to make it happen. You got to start winning games you're supposed to win.
It'll be interesting to see Mateer versus Jackson Arnold battle there in the first half of the season. Obviously, he went to Oklahoma. The SEC has become a premier destination for all the premier talent. They want to come here and play. And so if there's an opening at quarterback in an SEC program, I think you're going to see the top portal QBs look at those SEC schools before they do other destinations. So going to be fun to watch. Kyle, I want to thank you for joining me as always every week. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. thebarnauburn.com. That's where you can find me. Jump in, subscribe today, take $25 off your annual membership. Recruiting news, portal news, basketball or football, doesn't matter. Got all the good stuff going on there. Great conversation. Game threads are electric. A lot of fun. Go ahead and get signed up today. Be ready for the summer recruiting push as we lead up into this next football season. We'll keep you up to date.
If you guys like what we're doing here at the War Report, do us a favor in that comment section. Hit that super thanks button. We appreciate you guys for continuing to support the work that we're doing here. Like I said, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you like this content, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. CW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.